Yes, we are live. What's up, good people? Oh, hold on, I hear feedback. Yeah. Okay, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Whatever. We gonna work through this Mercury retrograde, all these technical issues because we are superheroes. We got superpowers, so we finna make it do what it does. Let's get right into it. So, right before we get right into it, I want to ask the question: what type of Christian are you? Are you a Christian that's open, have like an open mind? Or would you like what I would like to say, one of those Christians that play church, that's like one of the church folks? Cause I know some people might get kind of touchy by the word antichrist. But my thinking, and when we talking about thinking of antichrist in connection with Christ's consciousness and how that relates to us, and just with our action, because I know from my personal experience, when other church folks told me that I was going to hell just before my belief, I identified that as the action, as the antichrist, or the fact that Republicans are making laws to force women to carry a stillborn to term even when their life is at risk. Wouldn't y'all consider that the act of the Antichrist? So we here to really dive deep into it, and I'm gonna pass it to my boy TJ. Take it away.
All right, folks. Hello, everyone. My name is TJ Gordon. Be prepared for a great discussion on blackness, superheroes and villains, the Antichrist, and all that jazz. And so, our format for today is we're going to break up the discussion into topics. Topic one, we'll talk about a disability representation of our favorite superhero and cartoon story. The second one, we'll dive into Fya's Antichrist question. How are superheroes, Antichrist, or villains, and in between. Our last topic will be on we create our own story. So here's how our format will go for each topic. We will have 50 minutes for you. If you want to have questions, questions. But have she is very strong in owning black culture. And we got a TV and a very huge Disney.
Oh God, we just lost 2 people. Oh.
In here. By the way, create
Yeah, okay. TJ's screen is frozen. And Justin, you on mute.
Okay, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Let's see. TJ, are you there?
But it's answer the questions. So we to the first. Come on. Oh,
TJ, you're a bit frozen.
Okay. So, should I end the stream because we having technical issues? Okay, wait. Here go TJ again. Where were those people? We having some
I am
technical.
so sorry.
Okay, because
Yeah.
TJ,
Yes.
you're a bit frozen. Can you hear us now?
Brittany, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, you know what happened to Brittany?
She might have been kicked out too.
Yeah, because it kind of froze and then it kind of kicked us all out and had to reconnect us.
Yeah, okay, I just texted, but let's get right into it because, like, Mercury retrograde would not defeat us.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so TJ, what is the
That's
first
right.
topic? Okay, TJ, let's get right into this.
So I'm sorry. To the questions. So my mistake. And hopefully come back. So the first topic we will talk about is
I'm here.
Blaq. Yay.
Brittany, are you back?
So
I'm here. I can see and hear you guys.
Popular superhero.
Yeah, is your video working because your screen is black?
I can see and hear you guys fine. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Let's get on with this because we are superheroes and we gonna make it do what it do.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Take it away.
All right. So question number 1 for you all. Tell me about your heroes or your villains or your main characters of the stories and the comics that you love. How do you relate to those characters who are Black and disabled and have some type of superpowers and abilities?
Okay, well, I can go like one person like I really connect with was from like Octavia Butler's book Wild Seed. The character Anyaru, she was like a shapeshifter, and that's why I call myself like a shapeshifter, like cause just being able to adapt to different situations and energy and being able to like cause I know people play off of my weakness and think like I'm vulnerable. So I feed into that and I play and I use it for my advantage to get in where I fit in. And when it's time when I need to let a person know, like I let them know because I just think especially having like disabilities, we gotta learn how to manipulate the system and make things work in our favor and use the fact that people think we are vulnerable and we're not capable. Yeah, so that's my piece.
This is Brittany. I think that I don't originally think I had a superhero outside of the Black characters that I saw, even, watching movies with my mom because she was into the Batmans and the Catwomans and the X-Men. So I think I'm more associated and identified with Storm and Catwoman, both Halle Berry and the other remake. But I think I was always into kick-ass women, so that's kind of my personality now, and that's what it reflects.
Yeah, this is Justin. Yeah, I also like X-Men, like as a comic book fan, X-Men, like in the 90s, were like they're really hitting like hard on like a lot of issues, you know, that I like, kind of like similar to disability issues and a lot of things we're fighting for, you know. So like looking up to, you know, a lot of those characters, you know, from particularly from those comics, was something that I like grew up like really watching and really reading about. Like for me, I would say like one of the people over the last few years, I would say like Cyborg from like Teen Titans, you know, Justice League movies, Young Justice, and you know, being just a cybernetic, this black, you know, disabled cybernetic, you know, superhero, and you know, trying to fit in a world where he acquired his disability, and you know, trying to fit in the world is often, push disabled folks aside, push black disabled folks aside. And so like for me, I can relate to that because, you know, we always trying to, you know, figure out our ways to like be, you know, a part of like finding ourselves and like being a part of the disability community, and you know, trying to just navigate through systems that, you know, oftentimes do not include us and oftentimes do not give us a voice. And so, you know, growing up and like, let's say, you know, growing up to like, you know, X-Men and like Cyborg and all these different type of characters, just really shaped kind of like who I am as a person and how I fit in as a disabled person.
I actually like Cyborg personally also because much as DC is like one of the most comic labels in the history, you don't get the representation, and I'm glad that Cyborg has been pretty much the few that was a black representation of superheroes and villains time. And you can also make the case for Harvey Dent, depending on Batman you're looking at, or even the man in his still costume, John Henry Irons.
Yes.
So those to me, I think for me, I'm Killmonger. As much as I like Black Panther, here's why I met T'Challa and Killmonger. I can relate to Killmonger more because Killmonger really wanted to do is to motherland to the whole diaspora. And I try to connect my disability the African diaspora. Granted, did Killmonger job in trying to spread it? I will say no, because more colonizing, but his heart is in the right place, I believe. And plus,
Yeah, you know what I would say, because I will say, like, for me, Killmonger was kind of like the hero of Black Panther for me. And I think Killmonger represent like how like we as Black Americans feel disconnected from the African homeland, from our culture, when we was like stripped away. And even though like he exhibit a lot of like traits like misogyny, He was very rude, like very had that thug and like hood mentality, like that survival mentality that a lot of us like operate from. And just like when we doing this work, you TJ, you said about the African diaspora, and just like even though we're doing the work like base here in Chicago, making sure there's more resources on the South Side, I've been talking to a lot of people, someone in New York, someone in Ghana, and the situation is the same. Cause like disability is a taboo topic in every Black community, no matter where we are around the world.
Absolutely. I think our superpowers to spread more disability acceptance, but also St. Louis, Jackson, Mississippi, ATL, Canada, Mexico, Africa, all over 80 Black and brown and BIPOC folks. Hell, who's BIPOC too. So yeah. Oh, go for it, Fya. Sorry, go for it.
Like no, because like when you're talking about, because I know when like I first started this project, I wanted to include like all BIPOC people with disabilities, but I also found out working with another person that's BIPOC, and like me trying to take over and trying to like, it's like how do we coexist with the different ethnicity with all being people of color, because we all have different struggles and how we show up. But the one thing about starting working with you, TJ, made me realize that Black people with disability living in America have a very unique experience from everyone else. It's like just going back to like slavery, when like our ancestor was free in 1865, the disabled Black people then wasn't able to lead a plantation as freely, and that helped create like the separation between disability and Blackness. So like this is my mind is like moving fast, but like I think that is like the what line where the separation between Black people with disabilities and other people with non-disability, that separation, how we overlook.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we could definitely get into more cultures in topic 3. But I like the way you bringing it up right now, Fya. It actually could keep in the back of my mind. Brittany, I'm about to pick on you now.
Okay.
You are a fan of Princess Tiana, the Disney princesses, especially the princess, the BIPOC princesses.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes, I would even put Nala. Nala counts too.
Animals are a separate kingdom, TJ.
We are animal primates. Anyhow, the question, and I'll open it up to Justin and Fya as well. There is enough mainstream representation of Black main characters. Creators of Disney, Marvel, and all these view Black people through their interpretation of Black.
Are you asking, is there enough, TJ? I'm sorry.
Oh yes, I am asking enough representation of Black main characters. And the second part to it is, how do, let's say, Disney, for instance, usually portray Black in their story?
Well, let's talk about. I have the book. I just so happen to have the book randomly, but the recreation of this story, The Little Mermaid, is a good example of how we weren't represented till Tiana, and how, like, even me as a child, I watched these shows or these movies all the time. My brothers were in sports. I was sitting with my grandmother watching these movies. And so for now to actually see someone and her hair is locked that looks like me, that looks like my daughter, it almost brings me to tears, because it's like I have to take my niece, I have to take my daughter, I have to go, my mom has to go, my aunt will probably go. Like, it's a thing. And like, to not be represented, for me, I always identified originally with Pocahontas, and I think that's kind of maybe why I grow my hair the way I do, because I'm Pocahontas till I die. But I didn't see me, and I'm so thankful that Lauren gets to see herself in these characters, because yes, they're fictional, but we should be represented here. And I always thought I was kind of a Disney princess myself because of my story. My dad died when I was young. I had a stroke at 19. Like, there's a lot there. So I'm actually in page 3 of the best friends of the Disney friends, and that I am writing a piece right now about how the friends of Disney characters are necessary, and most of the time they have a disability. So, for example, Pocahontas, the best friend, I have this whole story about her being disabled, and we never see what's in the cornfields, but she has a whole little pathway for the cornfields, because characters keep disappearing in and out of the cornfields, so maybe they're just navigating through where to go and the signs, and it's a paved road for her. So I think it's very important to have representation, because even in fantasy, you have to go somewhere. So like, here, we're adults here, but we're talking about being superheroes. That's very important for the child developmental stages of life. And the fact that I had to gravitate towards Pocahontas because there was no one else until Tiana when I was grown is kind of how I navigated through my childhood and identifying with fantasy. But it is very important for the child developmental stages.
Can I add one thing with like talking about like Tiana, because like even though like it's good, because like I was like, I'm not going to even lie, when I saw the trailer of Holly Bailey, I cried, because like growing up, all I seen was white people like Lizzie McGuire, like even Stevens. I didn't see any Black representation until That's So Raven and the Proud Family. So I cried, because like that made me think that's exactly what I want for Black disabled Black girls. But when we talking about like representation with all the other Disney princesses, like the white girls, like they got to embrace their true femininity. But with Tiana, she was hard working, and everything was hard for us. And it adds to the stereotype of the angry Black woman, or the super overly strong Black woman, or overly masculine. And I know as a collective Black woman, we tired. We just want an easy life, to be in our feminine state and just like rest and not take on the world. And so like,
Right.
yeah, that's what I want to add to that.
Well, but Tiana was a boss too, because she wasn't just looking to marry a prince like every other Disney princess. So I think there was something in that I even gravitated to, is that she was hard working. Her daddy told her, don't just wish on stars, because that's fool. And that's a lot of reality. Like, you can't just wait for some man to take care of you. You got to get it while you can. And then if a man should come by, let him add. So I think there was something in that story, even that I took, and I kind of try to tell Lauren, like, you can't just wish for things to happen. You got to work too. It's okay to be strong, literally.
Yeah, I think like that's the point, like how we need to be resilient to make our dreams come true. But I'm talking about the stereotypes that Hollywood places on Black women, this overly strong Black woman, or we sexualize. Like, I would like to see more balance. Like not her being like a damsel in distress, because I'm not that, but just to be like some easiness. And what this thing with Disney got the thing of turning black people to fucking to animals. Yeah.
I don't know. And also go off topic a little bit. I think you alluded to how we heroes and villains so strong that remind them of their humanity. We rarely get to hear the backstories of super who look like us. All we know is man, they can kick ass, they awesome. We even in the context, do we even know T'Challa's backstory, at least movie wise, or Kilmo, other than T'Challa's father killed his brother, or T'Challa's uncle, basically, and wants revenge. We don't really get to take the time to what makes them. Similarly, other Marvel heroes or any superhero, like I could say, for instance, we know that Fury was white at the beginning until Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, so much made him Nick Fury instead. Even though I think they wanted him to be beforehand. We know how awesome he is. We know that he's funny. How do you get the patch in his eye? Do we really get to know that unless you're no? So I would love to see in stories or people who think it's more equitable in stories, at least explain the aspect of some of the superheroes. The same way they explain how Magneto became Magneto, how Professor became Professor X, or how the Murdoch became the Daredevil. And for Misty Knight, Luke Cage, and the other black heroes and villains.
Yeah, I think this will be a good time for you to Justin to talk about like your wheelchair chronicles and how like you using that to empower yourself.
Yeah. For me, like the wheelchair chronicles is like really like opened up a lot of ways for me. Even currently now, what I'm doing, as doing filmmaking and photography work, but it's like it really like empowered me, to really like have a voice, like understanding that I have a voice and I have a say and I have a story to tell, in the disability community. Oftentimes, growing up, like I didn't know a lot of people with disabilities. I didn't know a lot of black folks with disabilities, and I always felt like it was just me. The only like I was the only one that was disabled. I was the only one that was in a wheelchair, and so trying to like have a voice, especially in a space where oftentimes you're not heard. So like prime example. So to do a little backtracking. So when I did the Wheelchair Chronicles, I was a student at DePaul University, and sort of like this is where I kind of like came up with the idea for the like Wheelchair Chronicles and everything. But like while I was there, like early on, I always felt like I was more of an inspiration, in terms of, oh well, you're able to get here, you're able to get to class on time, or you're able to get to this building at this particular time, or get here early, or wow, you're like, you're really cool, you're like, I don't know how I don't know, like, you got here, like, I don't know how I would do it. And I was also like, I think one of my earlier experiences of like being an inspiration was, I had a professor one time in one of my classes who said I was handy capable. It's and so yeah, and so I'm sitting there, like, what the fuck does that mean? And what the hell does what the hell does that really mean?
This is
And
why
I'm like, yeah, exactly. And this was like really like, okay, like, I'm tired of like particularly white folks, telling the stories that pertain to Black people, pertain to people with disabilities, and this is sort of like my motivation, for creating the Wheelchair Chronicles, because I'm just like, I'm tired of like hearing so many stories that about us that don't involve us. And I figured, like, you know what, I can tell my story better than anybody can. And so, creating Wheelchair Chronicles was something that was very important to me. And then at the same time, I got like acclimated to like the disability community and meeting like so many like badass people within the community that were just open about their disability and didn't give a fuck about how people viewed them or how people seen them. And having that experience firsthand, I was like, oh, okay, so like I actually do have something to say, or okay, this is how I could use my platform to spread awareness about like accessibility issues, or how I feel, in terms of intersectionality of being like a Black man and being disabled, and all of these things like really opened the doors for me. And so like being a part of this community, the importance of it, right? The importance of seeing like people who look like you, who talk like you, and understand where you're coming from, that was such a relief for me. And being able to see that and being able to add that to the work that I do, and in empowering other folks with disabilities, because that's what we got to do for each other. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes we don't see, like I said, we don't see people like us. And so it's important for us to tell our stories, even in like as TJ, as you was mentioning, like the lack of backstory for like Black superheroes and even villains. Like, there's like a whole bunch of stuff about Batman and his backstory, and how he's been affected by like his parents getting killed, or like how he's been how he's like, affected a lot of like the villains from like Arkham Asylum and all of these other things that you hear about. And it's like, this is like, I want to hear more of that from like our superheroes, from Black superheroes, from even the villains, and like, hearing those type of stories. And so all of this stuff has just been empowering for me, because being able to see somebody who looks like me, hell yeah, I was like, yeah, I have that power, and I have a voice, and I could do some shit in this community. And I know that I got the backing from my folks who understand what I'm going through.
Yeah, and I kind of want to add like a one thing of how like a lot of Black celebrities that I found out had disabilities from our research, and how in order for them to reach the pinnacle of their success, they have to disassociate their disability. And like going back to like when I saw Holly Bailey being the Little Mermaid, and how when I sustained my disability at age 13, and how I was lost and thought, how am I going to live an independent life when like nobody else understand my challenges, and I can't do things how everybody else do. And it's just like like so important for that representation to be there for young Black boys and girls that have disabilities to look up to know that it's possible, that the sky is the limit. And like I'm so happy that we having this conversation and we starting to break down this barrier of the intersectionality of Blackness and disability. So back to
You
you,
know what?
PJ. Sorry.
Go for it.
You
Go for it.
you know what? You know what? Just quickly going back to like the Little Mermaid thing is this, like I've been seeing like so much Black empowerment, you know, from that announcement, but I've also been seeing a hell of a lot of pushback from people who are not a part of
Haters,
who
they're
are not
just
Black.
haters.
Yes, who are not Black. We're talking about black characters don't fit in this fantasy world, or they don't fit in that
Mm-hmm.
in this
First of
universe.
all,
And
mermaids been
yeah,
mermaids since the beginning of time. They are mermaids in Spain, Africa. There's mermaids
yes,
in Asia. So
yes,
technically, there have been mermaids for the longest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go back to the original, the mermaid had clear skin. They never color really or race, just clear skin. It could have been anyone. A
exactly.
dolphin looking like a mermaid. I don't know.
But I also want to say, since we're talking about mermaids, and then we want to get to like African spirituality and the orishas and the water spirits, we got Yemeya, Mama Wata, like
Yes.
all of these like beautiful Black mermaids or goddess spirits that was in these stories, in these folklores, that's a part of like our culture, connecting us to the African diaspora. So like it's like so many layers when like white people saying like the story we're originally from Dutch, she can't be Black because there's no sun. But when we thinking about when they threw the Black people overboard with the transatlantic slave and futurism, they call them the joys, like the spirits, like that energy still exists in the water.
Yeah, tell it, Fire. Tell it.
Yeah, because even like Dick Gregory said, like the hurricanes is the spirits of like the Black woman. Cause I was watching a TikTok video and he said you notice like the path of the hurricanes, they travel the routes of the transatlantic slave, what the ships took. So I'm just saying, like we got Yemaya, we got Oshun, we got Oya, and there's a story of Yemaya when like she seen her children being captured into slavery. Then she went to the Americas to see what they was going through. Like these energies, these orderishas are like over us, like they exist, they empower us, and they been here, they been mermaids. Black people invented everything.
Always. Actually, I'm looking at Jazz Gray. Thank you for the comments and the question. I'm about to ask you a question now, and for those in the audience, if you want to questions, now was the time. Go for it. And talks of going back to the Orishas and other myths throughout Africa, and even Native Americans also. I guess the question we could continue to address is from just wanting representation to attending to how. I guess to answer your question, Jazz. I'll use Black Fade Day as an example, where Black Fade Day, yes, we get to not only be fairies, we can define what type of fairies we can be. We don't have to be the satyrs or the nymphs, elves, the usual fairies that's white phase. We can actually draw back to the phase in native culture as well, or we could combine them both. So that if we want to go to the level of attending how we are represented from not only a creative standpoint, but also as a producing stream culture, recognize that it is okay to other cultures. It's also okay to nations from various cultures, even traditional mainstream culture, to make something new without appropriating it to mainstream culture, but rather recognize that it is part of the long of superheroes and supernaturals. And it's just, I dislike it when have representation in comic books and so that and the mainstream folks, the white folks especially, wants to claim our heroes as theirs, even though we're created specifically for us.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I also think that we need to be a little more aggressive when we are doing things. If you write a script, for example, I'm writing a script, I'm not going to just let Joe Blow from production company X in Hollywood do it. I'm going to talk to Coop and be like, who do you know that can help me get this vision going? Because I think a lot of what happens is that we write or we create and then we sell, kind of like the beauty products and all the other things that we do that are great. We sell so we can make more profit. But if you can stay true to your idea and what you're looking for, that will be how we can bring our own stories and our own narratives to the conversation or the big screen like I want to do.
If we also stay true to our beliefs, guess what? You never know. It will sell regardless, especially if there's a need. For instance, I'm holding in my hand Queen Helene's cocoa butter. Now, people will probably would laugh, well, why we need cocoa butter? For no, it's good for our particular skin. I'm sure Queen a lot of money off of us right now, especially for going to Walmart, because they know we need a butter.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, of course, natural is better, but that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Need you is buddy wise, representation wise, etc. Yeah. The question that Jazz posed. No. And Fya, you about to say something? Fya.
I think you muted it, Fya.
I think they're muted, Fya.
Yeah, oh my bad. But anyway, like you were saying about like Faye Day, and like, cause I've been seeing a lot of her images like going viral, cause I know I've been posting it, and then I'm like, this is exactly what I want to see. I want to see how us like just being Black and disabled, how we can use our creativity and talent to create opportunity for ourselves. Because those images was beautiful. And just thinking about like in different wheelchair being a fairy, what's the backstory? What do those stories look like? Because I'm ready to see, like Brittany, you saying you want to create your own film and story. I want to hear these stories. And like when y'all was talking about the one that Samuel L. Jackson played with his eye patch, like I kind of want to hear like those backstories, because I know with me, like once I found out that like my grandfather, on the sperm donor side, that he was from Gullah Geechee, and I really like got in like really researching that culture, like with hoodoo, and with like even with Tutanese, and how creative our ancestor was. Like even though what all they was going with like Jim Crow slavery, they was able to recreate a new language, to create a new religion after being stripped from everything. And we can tap into that power and create these stories where we see people with different types of disability, not only people that got physical disability, but who are neurodivergent and have chronic illness. So like I just want to see all the different brilliance of people have to offer with being Black and disabled.
Yep, absolutely. Mic drop. All right.
Yep.
So there's no other responses from us or the audience. Okay, with you all, we will get into a 5-minute break. And then after the 5 minutes, to part number 2, how Black people are viewed as superheroes, antichrist, villains, and
We got 2 here. Oh, 3 here. 1 to go. Brittany, where you at? 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 Brittany.
Hey, Lisa, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, we got Brittany. Okay, we all bet. Okay. Yeah. So TJ, let us what we talking about next?
Absolutely. My apologies to you, Lisa, for if you're having a hard time hearing me. I was able to play around with the settings. I hope that will work. And also, I know that we need a little bit of time, and that's okay. If you'd like to stay long, do so. We will still keep it within the same, but we may end at like 4:45. No, be a setup for 4:30. If that's okay with you all.
Okay, that let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's go. So with number 2 then. How Black disabled people viewed as villains, antichrist, and in between. It goes back to the question that Fya posed at the beginning, exploring how we are viewed as good, actually based on what we believe in the context of American history and culture. We usually use as like the guide to, I guess, judge or view people with disabilities. So, I have a question to you all for the panelists. It's going to be 2 questions. when we talk about our black heroes like Chadwick Boseman, Jackie Robinson, and all that, Stevie Wonder Rudolph, Magic Johnson, no pun intended, we as the Black community often leave out the disability of their identity and their accomplishments. In you all's opinion, why do you think the Black community erases disability history and culture? And how can we, as Black artists and activists, fight to include disability in all parts of history, even in how we create our superhero stories?
Okay, so I guess like when we talking about like how like the antichrist and the connection with disability, because I know but my personal experience with I'm living with my mama and sister and like I have like silent seizures, and so loud music and weird smell can trigger my seizures. But when I'm asking people to turn the music down or asking for accommodation, people looking at me crazy. When I'm trying to talk to people all calm and cool, nobody heard me. But when I start raising hell and calling people out their name, like, oh, you hear me now, and I'm like the bad person, I'm the villain now. Because like it just baffles me how like people feel entitled to your needs and able to control you what's good for you and to say. But when you doing something that can cause me to have a seizure and can jeopardize my life, and you're not trying to talk to me and look at me crazy, that's a problem. And I just, and like someone said before, like how it was you, Justin, with how like we are even seen as this godlike figure and capable of this inspiration, or like this devil, like we can't do nothing, that we incapable, or like society just pushes to the wayside like we nothing. Like that stuff is like hurtful, and to carry that pain like you are a burden to everyone else is bad. And that was some of the talks that I heard Chadwick Boseman saying, that his mother said, don't make other people feel like you're a burden to them. That's why he kind of kept that quiet.
Yeah, I could definitely see why Chadwick Boseman decided not to come forward with his cancer, though pretty much he had very close to death. To understand, he still wanted to show people that, you know, you can still be whoever you want to be. I feel that the problem is that a lot of history, even a lot going on with Black culture with disability, slavery, for instance, the sins of slavery that our ancestors became disabled, whether it's through the PTSD and mental traumas. And then I think you mentioned, Fya, even after we were free and the amendments in 1865, some of us was free. We were still being exploited and manipulated. And in the case of Blind Tall Wiggins, for white people only, not for themselves, and being exploited because of their, and also their disability. I think of even now, we always hear about the good that our Black heroes are doing. Yet, just like in cartoons and superhero stories, we don't hear about their backstory about the disability or how that disability even influences their celebrity stories, the good, about the world. Walter Payton, for instance, one of my favorite running backs of all time, one of the great and humanitarians, period. So his biography came out. Now there was a period between when he retired until 1999 when he told the world that he liver cancer. He was going through a lot of depression to the point where he backed out of he was pretty much sleeping around and not being around at home as much other than this. We don't really talk about how industries that make us great is also disabling us. So when I talk about, we talk about Walter Payton, for instance, and let's talk about how the NFL and other sports leagues take care of players after they retire, or they don't check on their mental health, as they don't talk about how Walter Payton was using laughing gas to ease the pain. So let's talk about chronic our community and our industry.
Yeah, I kind of want to add some points that you said, like even going back to the point to include like Harriet Tubman, like even though like she freed all these Black people, over 300 people, but we really don't think about she had traumatic brain injury. Those sleeping spells that people talking about, that's kind of similar to the silent seizures and the blackouts that I have. And it's like everybody glorifying her, but we don't really hear her diving deep into her life, like what she was like a woman. Did she have time to deal with her trauma with having TBI? And then also going to the NFL, a lot of these players are developing CTE that's connected with TBI, and they are developing a disability. Like, what's that one Mexican football player? He went to jail.
Aaron Fernandez. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, he has.
What great talent!
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Fernandez, Junior Seau, a Hall of Famer. Demarius Thomas, even the recent case, retired. Died because of seizures and couldn't find trauma.
Right. And then we also don't. Yes, and then we also don't talk about how Black people are becoming disabled from gun violence and police brutality. Look what happened to Khalif Browder being in solitary, how he developed like mental challenges, and he led to him committing suicide. And I think these are important topics of how like Black people are becoming disabled, but disability is still a taboo topic, and there's not no resources to help people for when they become disabled.
Right.
I think it's interesting because just thinking of our culture, think of Black History Month. We still only have 1 month, but things come out every single day about what we have done. And I feel like it's easier for society to talk about it in the aftermath of what happens to us. For example, Chadwick, let's talk about all the awesome things he did because, yeah, he had cancer, but he did this movie, he did that movie, he did this, he did that. Like, it just seems easier for society to just talk about it in the aftermath instead of giving us our flowers, you know, while we're alive, because that would be too hard for us. But I like that our generation specifically, we continue to have these conversations and have these discussions to let people know that we see what you're doing and this is no longer going to be acceptable. And I think that is the treasure and the blessing in our generation, is that we realize, like, y'all got to stop treating us like we still slaves, because we're not our grandparents. So
Right.
I think that is what speaks to me about that.
Yeah, and let's talk about Chadwick Boseman. Like, when we didn't know that he had stage 4 colon cancer and he was losing all that weight. And then all the Black people on social media call him like a crackhead. But when he died from stage 4 colon cancer, oh, he's this hero. Oh, people saying like, oh, I don't have no excuse. But y'all just vilified him before y'all knew what he was going through. And this is the case of what we experience with being Black and disabled. We have to experience racism, ableism, and then for Black women, we got to deal with misogyny. And I just think, like, if the film industry was more inclusive and accessible to people with different types of disability, Chadwick would still be here with us. But I'm glad we're using his story as a catalyst to advocate for more accessibility in the film industry and different in art industry and career and employment and hospital and housing. And that's what his legacy means more to me, because he was a phenomenal actor, a genius. But he was suffering when we seen that movie Ma Rainey before he died. Like how he was struggling. And those are stories that I want to hear more of.
Absolutely. Another story I want to hear more. I think we could take a lesson for that one. Ray Charles. It was one of the dopest movies ever. It's one of the few movies in the Black culture where we not see Ray Charles doing his thing, but also really see how his disability affected his childhood, his rise to the top, and even his drug addiction and rehab, and our family infidelity stuff as well. It opened out disability must be added, because without knowing about how his blindness of his life and some of his choices that he made, we would have just said acted and a cheater. Granted, we wouldn't still excuse it in the past anyway. We would have not have seen the disability, not shown the lens. So I think as Black and activists, I think we should definitely tell our story as it is, even those and some of the stories that people don't want to hear, but they need to hear. And you know, mine's with my battle in my earliest college years with alcohol to be social, because I wasn't used to being social with a lot of people until after college, when I realized I didn't really need alcohol anymore. Tell those stories instead of Austin, TJ, Brittany, y'all doing all you great things. The end. Brittany and her path to motherhood, Justin's path to where he is right now, and Fire's path to right now with her art. Our disability story counts art and talents and other abilities. Yeah, sorry that
exactly.
I had to let it go.
I think like it's important, for all of those, for all aspects of our stories, to be told, the good and the bad, because it's like there's too many people, especially able-bodied folks, non-disabled folks, who are always wanting to hear the good things or the positive things about, what you're doing and how you're doing, or you're doing these great things. But a lot of people don't know or don't want to hear like the struggles that we really go through. Like, yeah, I could get outside and I could roll around in my wheelchair and I can do all of these things, but a lot of people don't know like the struggles it took to actually get in my chair. The struggles that it took to actually be able to roll around outside. A lot of people don't know, the stories of like, like for me, like falling and all of these different things that been a struggling, like oftentimes have like really put me in, made me feel depressed. And I think those are all the stories, but that makes us, that makes up everything that we are, as Black disabled folks. It's not just the positive stories, the great stories, but it's all of these stories that make up who we are, and they have to be told. And I think all of those stories have to continue to be told because it's a part of our experience.
Absolutely. So you bringing up a great point. I'll read your comment if that's fine. Things like the narrative read Chadwick Boseman was inspiration and not his illness in order to get jobs and earn a living. I actually like Lisa because it's a nice segue to the next question that I panelists. Thinking back on the question to think about, or thinking back on how Chadwick Boseman for illness to get to where he got to before he died. Describe how our culture and beliefs in our way people view our Blackness and disability. People in your community or family see you as a superhero, like a superhero that overcomes the odds, a bad person, or just a pretty face. And how do you come back to stereotypes? So I will say quickly, another way we could think about this question is, how the hell do we manage to where we are, even though it's stressful as hell to hide disability all the time?
Yeah, good point. Cause I actually I think there's a very good connection because a lot of people with disability have to mask. And when we talk about like performative culture, like people are doing anything to go viral for clout. And I think there's a connection between performative culture and masking. Like putting on this character shirt just to be seen and to go viral, because it's like now everybody want to be seen and heard and want social media fame. And on the other side, with people with disability, we are overcompensating just to feel included in an inaccessible society. And I know for a long time I've been masking and overcompensating. And now, like, now I'm just letting it be. Like, I used to didn't let my tics when I shiver and stuff, then other people didn't see it, but now I do it all the time because it's too much work to cover that up and hide. Like, I'm tired of hiding a portion of my identity. So,
I think we also need
Yeah,
to take back the narrative as well. Specifically, and yeah, being a Black woman and growing up in that and what that means. Now I've chosen to stop watching a lot of mainstream stuff just because we're so heavily sexualized and it's just gross for me now. I think that if I can write a piece about my sexuality that means I don't have to take off my clothes. I think of Jessica Rabbit as an example. That feels better for me than just to watch people just every 2 seconds are over the counter, over the couch, over the chair. Like I've done. So I think it is fine time and high time that we just take back our own narratives and write our own stories and get our own things produced and published and so on.
I agree. I agree with you, Brittany. It's about time that we take back our own narratives. I think you brought up a good point of how movies are becoming too sexualized to the mainstream. It's also interesting. I think we watched Little People in Atlanta. While there was good representation of who are Black in the South. All we really see is how sexy they are.
mm-hmm.
And I'm an expert. But can we hear more about life or what they're really doing? Yes,
Yeah.
we need to see that, that we may have a disability, but we could be sexuality too. Male,
Yeah.
female, and in between.
Yeah, and that point brings me to a good point. Like, even though, because I love ratchet TV, reality TV, Good Woman LA, but on the other side, it's like it kind of felt like they was being exploited. And when we go into like Black people with disability, and the only the only job they could get was working in the freak shows in the circus because there was a story of the two albino twins who was in a human zoo. And just because like Black people with disability are isolated from the Black culture and Black community, and we can be seen as a very vulnerable demographic, and that leads to us being exploited. Because how many stories is that Black mentally challenged people being taken advantage of by other people? Just recently, that Black man was in the basement of a white family and they was neglecting him. And I like those stories need to be told also.
Yeah. To answer the question about how me personally, gosh, this is like mixed feelings on that question personally. And let's say the Black community, for the most part, for people with autism, that community to be and such. I get that a lot all the time, to the point where it's hailed as a success story, even though I feel personally doing what I'm doing as a human being. I don't see myself someone special. But then on the same, there has been people in the Black community who vilified me as autistic person. Like people are still at. I produce a son. I'm also a son, and my goddaughter as well. They are amazed and have a drink every now and then. And be like, teacher, what? Come on, I'm a grown person.
Ooh, let's not get to sexuality and disability, TJ. As a Black female,
My.
oh baby, let's say that that's a different topic.
Both of us could go all. I'm sure all of us go all day about reality.
Wait, hold on. My mommy is looking at this. She just posted in the chat. So,
okay, mama.
We can talk about sex in front of my mommy.
We can. She know you grown, boo. We're all adults. But that is a different. That's a different discussion in itself, TJ, because that's a whole different series.
We could create a whole series on that. Multiple topics.
Yes.
The point being is like we get too much praise just for hiding in reality. We're not able to be our full selves, or the combination we need. We get vilified so much because we just live in our lives. We make mistakes like everybody else. We explore things just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Or we get so easy to say, stand down.
I think
piss me off.
I think that also goes back to that church mindset of like when I had Lauren, because nobody realized I was pregnant because I was just belly and I always I'm a baggy clothes wearer as it is. They're like, well, we didn't know you were pregnant. And it was just a big show like, oh my God, am I not allowed to have sex because I'm not a child? And like I said, that's a whole different topic, TJ. But anyway, it goes back to that mindset of are you, Fya, like you said, are you open-minded? And you can understand that as a grown woman, I'm having sex, and that's okay. If you think that's wrong in your church mind, I don't have to be here. And I literally had to leave my church because, well, it was a multitude of things. But after I had Lauren, they were like, oh, she can't be in childcare while you're singing because she's not a year and she's not walking. And I said, well, baby, then I can't be at this church no more. And I had to step away.
Yep.
But I think it's a thing.
Speaking of, there's one instance where I wanted to speak in church when I was in church. Initially, the pastor was like, I don't know. He doesn't talk. Basically, it'll lose. They're afraid that it'll affect my disability or whatever. Eventually, my mom came in, let me speak once Sunday, and ever since then, I will speak. So takes my talent, piano or the recorder in church once. I think it's looking at the disability itself, person, and what we can do, and I think we're better off not only in a larger scale, but particularly, and I feel like we'll be more included in our communities if people just and our needs as a whole.
It's funny, like TJ. I've had like my family. So like my family is like very, 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 is religious. My grandfather was a pastor and all of that, but they never really like treated me as like as like an inspiration or anything like that. They always treated me, my disability. They knew who I was, and they always treated me fairly. But it was always other people within the Black community in the church that felt like my disability needed to be prayed away. And I had this one story. Where I was at this church with a couple of friends of mine. They knew my disability and everything. It was like a New Year's Eve, service, whatever. And so, I'm there with them. We said we whatever. And the pastor, the bishop, and his two deacons, right? They wanted to pray, and so they immediately kind of came in my direction, and I kid you not, I was surrounded by like four dudes, basically, like wanting to put oil on me and wanted to pray my disability away. Like that shit was going, like that shit was gonna work.
What?
Yeah, and so I said, like, so you can see like me clearly embarrassed by this whole situation, because it felt like I was singled out of everybody else. There's other people at this church that need prayer. Right? I just immediately come to me and think that you were gonna heal me right on the spot. And it was always like people within, Black folks within the church that will always treat you like these inspirations, or like you're gonna be healed, if we pray for you. And it was just always, that's why I kind of always like distanced myself from from the church or any other experience, because like growing up with that was always embarrassing, because I was always singled out when it came to these situations, and I always felt like, what the fuck? Like I'm just here to enjoy church. I'm just here to choir and all these other things, and like having these things happen to me. Yeah, it just really kind of turned me off as I've gotten older. It sort of turned me off to like going to church or dealing with anything church related, because of those past traumas.
I've had a experience like that also. I think the church does a great job at making people with disabilities feel like they're just this magnificent, mystical, magical creature. And I did experience that when I came home. I went to visit my great aunt's church, and it was okay. I would say it was a standing O almost, because it was like, oh my God, she's up. And the case was kind of extreme, like I was in a coma, blah. But yeah, it was really like, okay, you guys, thank you. And I don't know how to react in situations like that. Literally, even if you compliment me on my hair, it's like, okay, I didn't grow it. This is just how it grows. So I think the church does that really well, and it's bad, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
Especially Black church.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. So I see Vanessa Stafford made a.
That's my mommy.
Hi.
Hi, Mama.
No.
We're sorry you being X-rated in front of you.
What did she say, TJ?
She said, very informative. Free truth of the real struggle of being. My people are seen as animals without emotional feeling to treatment done to them. We are being reminded in the media, yes, write and tell your story to give that human touch.
Yeah.
Oh, can
Thank
I just want to brag on my mommy right now.
I
feel like my mommy is like my everything. Cause literally when like I was in like the reason why I feel like I was able to start walking and talking after waking up from a 2-month coma is because what she did while I was in a coma, like she had people play music to me. She used to read to me.
My mom did the same thing.
And had people like stimulate, and she was always there, like even after when I got in school, she made sure she was my biggest support, had my IEP, got me a neuro therapist evaluation. And I think my mama is a great example of how Black parents that have children with disability need to be, how to support their children, instead of what we seen on TikTok with these Black parents shoving the camera in a disabled child face just to go viral.
Bro.
Put the camera on me. Shoot. I can make it go viral.
No, thank you, TJ.
No, thank you. But it's too much of that. And like, you make a great point. There's too much of that. And like just like your mom and like Brittany and your mom and my mom, like, they are biggest supporters. No matter what, they gonna go through a goddamn brick wall to make sure that we well taken care of. And that's one of the things I always am like grateful for, like even my mom, because like shit, like there's been so much, growing up, being a part of like CPS and going to like a public high school and dealing with all the bullshit that goes with it. Like, man, if I didn't have her, I don't know where the hell I would be. Even like as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a photographer, she's always been supportive of what we do. And if we gonna keep it real, yeah, they are. That's my mom's my superhero. That's my superhero right there.
All moms are superheroes. Hell, my mom is my. Because we both Libras. We pretty much our birthdays are a day apart. Literally, I'm really my mom's birthday present. But even then, sure, to go through walls to make sure I get to where I'm. And speaking about superheroes, do we mind topic 3 and then close it out? Because I think you onto something with our own superheroes. We have talked about the Black superheroes that we read or watch. We talk about viewed sometimes as villain superheroes, Antichrist. We historically praise all Black heroes mentioning disability, even though we are doing the work to include disability in their story. We can also be our own superheroes right now. We could create art about Blackness and disability and the superpowers. In fact, we are doing it in our own ways right now, within us or within our community in general. So for those who are listening, continue to, or if you have any comments or questions, put it in the chat. It will. So for you, for Brittany, Justin, and Fya, go for it.
Yeah, I want to wrap up like what does this question that I asked in leading this conversation, what does the Antichrist, superhero, disability, and Chadwick Boseman all have in common? I believe everyone have a backstory, and we all have like good and bad and light and darkness within us, and we eventually become whatever we get more attention to. So even though the Antichrist is going against Christ, but instead of from my thinking, because I'm just being spiritual, of just thinking about Christ as the consciousness, because I'm not gonna lie, Jesus as a person, I fucks with him. He was a rebel. He was knocking tables over when he was on check. I I mess with that. And when you go to the church in Christianity, it's like, oh, you gotta be uptight, you can't do this and that. But Jesus, as a person, he was real and authentic. He didn't play no games. And when I think about Christianity now, is it really going by that Christ consciousness of how we treat people, not being, we just accept people as they are, and we don't degrade them because they don't meet our standards?
Why not talk about religion? But I feel I'm actually a universalist now, so my beliefs is more so in God still, in Jesus, and all the there. I'm also worried about the social justice now and what can happen. God calls me to go to purgatory, heaven, wherever I feel that in a maybe we lost what religion is supposed to be. It's supposed to be no thing that we go to for comfort. We guide, but we have to seek out our own answers. It had to be a rule or a ritual all the time, but rather like where you use the teachings and the rituals as a guide, not telling people what to do. That's how. That's why when I'm practicing now, whether it's Christianity or when I dabble into the Quran, Eastern and African philosophies, my learn about the areas, incorporating those things into my personal life as well as my, and then also encouraging others to start exploring what they believe in and then incorporate it to their lives. I think that's a big topic that could be separate. Say,
yeah, part 2. I want to say also that what you said, Fya, is a thing, because I'm part of the church I'm a part of now is very much in the belief that Jesus is the way. So we should be, living that Jesus life, like you said, Fya. We need to be out here getting absurd and upset about things that are not Christ-like, and we need to be helping people. And that's the most basic element that we need in a church. It's not about the building. It's not about how you dress. You can come in shorts, and they really don't care. It's about what you're doing to help people and help yourself for the greater good.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, that's really all it's about. I think this kind of was a thing that kind of turned me off to the church as I got older, and really learning more about in college, getting to learn more about theology and really learning more about the teachings of Jesus and like what he stood for. And so, like, once I got out of that mindset of just like, okay, yeah, this guy like Fya, you said this guy's bad dude, and his teachings should all be followed because hey, he was helping people. He was out here helping people. He was out here kicking ass. And I think that's the one thing that we have going forward is that mindset of hey, we got to do good for ourselves. But we got to do what's good for the disability community and being able to help others within the community. I think that's really at the end of the day, that's what we here for. And going forward, that's something that we got to keep doing. Because there's a lot of evilness in the world, not a lot of wickedness in the world. So we got to continue to making sure we fight against that.
Absolutely. absolutely. Nice segue, by the way, to part 3, heroes. And if I may, I can ask the last 2 questions. Close it out. So, knowing we have our personal connection through spiritual knowledge and whatever to advance our beliefs in our Black disability community, how can we incorporate our Black success, our Black magic, whatever inside into our art, our movies, cooking, and all the other stuff that we do in the Black disability community?
I can lead. I think you got to carry it with you always. So you guys know that when we schedule things, I can't schedule things at a certain time of day because I'm a mother first. And I let her run and play and run me ragged because I need to go to bed too. But I think also in that, with your identity and how you identify, you need to carry this suitcase of I'm a Christian, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, right? Your list is endless. But you can't ever just be like, oh, well, so for example, today I'm not a mother because my mom has my daughter. Like, I'm still a mother. She's just not here, so I can do what I have to. But you have to, and I think also the biggest part is disclosure as well, because a lot of people don't know what they don't know, so they can't really help you if they don't know.
I will add to it, Brittany, as a father and godfather. I'm pretty much off the clock because with grandma and Theo lives with his mom, helping him as much as I can financially and talk to him over the phone as well. In my case, stop being a dad. It'd be a better dad using what I know in my work to help black disabled identify themselves, empower themselves, and empower others. I use my Black magic also in my love of geek stuff into my work, more geeks and nerds like you all. And then expand our reach above. I just feel like not only add and incorporate whatever identity we have, it our work, but also announce to the world what we stand for. Is our work. Take it however you want.
Right? We gotta be our true, authentic selves. That's what we gotta do.
And I guess I can close like it's my goal through the I Am event series, Disability, Art, Life, and Culture, is to put disability culture on the same level as the LGBTQ. That community on the same level where they able to talk about their challenges and fight for their justice, but it's also a celebration because like I've been doing research to document disability, art, life, and culture from the Black lens, but like I'm starting to find out more about it, but I'm like, do we have specific names of what certain things are called, like different linguals, like how do we thrive and live? And those are things that I want to see documented so we can celebrate it, so the upcoming generation of Black boys and girls can have a guideline so they don't feel isolated and they can be seen and know the sky is the limit for them. So yeah.
Absolutely. Hold on.
Yep.
You're not done yet, Fya, because I actually have a question specifically for you. And yep, I do. I mean, you can answer it too, Joe. I think it's more of a fire question. Since, from my understanding, not only your work is hinted off of this particular thing too, called Afrofuturism. That is your jam. With that being said, how can we fuse our love, Black folklore, Afrofuturism, gay, and other alternative stuff, whatnot, to Black disability culture? Create in our spaces where we could combine our intersectional identity, nerdom / alternative lifestyles, even Afrofuturistic identities, while making whatever we create is inclusive and accessible.
I think that's a very important question, and especially when we thinking about what Afrofuturism is us is like basically Black people seeing themselves in the future. And I think it's a very Afrofuturism and Afrosurrealism is can be a very vital tool for Black people with disability. Like, how do we see ourselves in the future? Like, what resources do we need? How do a more inclusive and accessible society look like? Because this society right now ain't it. And like because I know in worse, like, cause like one part, like with like my film, like I'm working on it, because like the first part of the film was in an exhibition at Carnegie Hall, at Afrofuturism exhibition. And then the reason why I got in, because the curator said like, oh, I don't have nothing about disability. I'm like, well, I'm your girl. And then so I was able to include like a video that was very accessible. So I'm just saying there's space and opportunity. And like more Black people with disability, we need to be bold and unapologetic about who we are and take up space. Cause like it's our time, and we need each other to help make this inclusive and accessible society that we desperately need.
Oh yes, I agree. Also, similar to what you mentioned, Fya, the Afrofuturism, not just being all science. I like that aspect too. That's why, honestly, Wakanda is a huge draw. We have been creating Wakandas, and we are trying to create Wakandas right now, where the techie world and our vision are the aspects that we are futures now simply by being ourselves. Why I am drawn personally to Black nerdom, BLERD, and the where, for those who are not familiar with cosplay, Beb as your favorite character. So think costumes, but instead of just dressing, you get to dress up on special occasions or any day, anime or comic conventions, etc. In my case, Black and cosplay have enabled me to connect with more Black disabled folks who love similar things, to form small and intimate communities and online where we have been people in all walks of life. at the end of the day, yes, we all love our alternate culture, but it's also our job to make sure that everybody, and accessibility and respect is a huge part of that. All my blurs in Chicago, and I'd like to also give a shout out to the blurs that I kick it with all the time. Hey, Chris, Sabrina, you Chicago that I know of. You know who you are. Brittany or Justin? One last question.
Do we have another question? Are you asking me to ask a question?
Or answer
Or just
the
to
last.
share your final remarks.
Oh, okay, yes. I think that in order to change our narratives, we need to step up and do what we have to do to make sure that the narrative change. For example, I'm still writing, and I will continue to write, and I will continue to talk to who I need to talk to about getting it out here. Much like, and we didn't talk about this, but I was fortunate enough to see Code of the Freaks last weekend, and that was a lot in it as well. So I think we have to begin to do things for ourselves by ourselves. As we do in the activism community, we need to do within each and every realm of our life. And so I think that's kind of where our future is in that of like just taking over. We need to take over the mainstream and put more of our stories there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It's like, yeah, we got to really be the ones out there in the forefront. As I said earlier, we got to be our most authentic selves because that's who we really are. And if we gonna make noise in these industries, in the film industry, myself in the art industry, we got a voice. We got a voice, and we got to raise it within these systems that have often excluded us, from being a part of. And so from on my end, I'm like, listen, I got a voice in these art sectors and these art communities that oftentimes have pushed me away. Oh no, I got a voice now, so I'm here. And so it's important for us to continue to raise those voices so that future generations of Black disabled youth can make their voices heard,
Mic drop. And I drop, I think Justin concluded this whole thing strongly in topic 3. And that's it for the whole discussion. It's been a great audience. We like to thank you all for coming and also your comments and questions in the chat. Brittany, Justin, and Fya being a part of this great discussion, this great raid. And
We'll be back.
Ladder on this. So have some more stuff to talk about. I'll hand it over where she will close us out and talk about the expo that's coming up.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, beautiful people, for joining us. This was very dope. But there's also on October 8th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I am doing like an expo because basically what this conversation, like we need tools and resources. And so this expo is to teach BIPOC people with disabilities how to use their skills and talents to create opportunities for themselves. So we have like dope panel discussions to talk about poverty in the disability community, race, medical racism, and also talk about the CESA bill that's very historic, that was created by these phenomenal people here with me. It was the first bill created by BIPOC people with disability. So put some respects on their name. Yes, yes, yes. It would be dope workshops about like entrepreneurship from the disability perspective, and then there would be free food. So the expo would be like a hybrid event. So you will be able to access the expo on the app, but for the people who can come in person, it's gonna be a dope experience. And I want to see all y'all beautiful faces there, because we all need to be taking up space to be creating this inclusive and successful society that we all deserve. And being Black and disabled is the new cool in that.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
Bye, you guys.
And
Well,
with
as they
that,
said, that's all, folks.
yep.
Peace
Don't
out.
Yeah.
Peace out. Don't forget Expo 11 to 4. Whether it's in person or if you want to join on comfort.